This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV. We're at Cloud Expo East in New York in the year 2015, whether we want to admit that or not. Sitting next to Mark Hornbeek with Spirent Communications. Thanks for coming to Syscon TV. Thanks for coming to Cloud Expo. And a basic question is, why are you here? What's going on in your world in the cloud?
Hey, Roger. Good question.
And if you don't know, well then...
Yeah, I work for Spirent Communications. As you said, I'm a solutions architect. Spirent has something to contribute to the world of DevOps. We're a company that specializes in testing. And you know, DevOps is all about continuous delivery and accelerating the delivery pipeline. Well, there is no continuous delivery without testing. You really have to have a good test capability to go all the way from integrating products to delivery. And Spirent is really an expert in testing. We've been involved in test automation and provide test tools to the industry for many years. So we have a solution that contributes continuous testing to DevOps.
Tell me from maybe the architect's level view first, with DevOps, continuous delivery, and testing. I read something the other day where someone said there's not really a need for testers anymore, but because it's all automated. But I'm not quite sure I understood what that person was trying to say. How is DevOps changing the world of testing, and how do you address it, and how do you convince your fellow architects that what you're doing is what you should be doing?
That's a very insightful question, and can be controversial, in fact. But yes, DevOps, when implemented according to best practices, does in fact change the relationship between development and testing. Different companies are handling that in different ways, but the idea is as testing becomes more automated and more available on demand through automation and automated topology and orchestration, then indeed the need for separate and independent testers changes, and the developer takes on more of the responsibility of doing a more complete job of not only testing his code, but even automating test cases for the system as well. So the way that is handled in different organizations, it can be sensitive, in fact, but I've seen everything from having the QA team become more of an expert consulting team integrated with development, all the way to having no independent QA team and the developers do it all themselves. So there are different ways it's being handled in the world.
Sort of an enlightened way is to have the QA team move upstream, but it also seems to relate a little bit to DevOps culture. I'm hearing the term. You have to develop a DevOps culture, but it seems DevOps, Dev and Ops, here at the show we have a Dev track and an Ops track. And we do that so that the two audiences won't kill each other. Yeah. And so I'm thinking, oil and water, what is that relationship, in your mind between developers and operations, and how can it be improved, and what are you doing to address that issue? Because it is a sensitive issue.
Oh, indeed, Roger, it is a sensitive issue. I will tell you that, again, different companies are handling it differently, but as you go to higher and higher levels of best practices of DevOps, the cycles get faster and faster, and the cultural changes actually evolve as you get faster and faster. What is considered operations side of the house, in fact, is a little different depending on what kind of organization it is. In a traditional IT organization, operations is mostly the IT team. In a manufacturing organization, which DevOps definitely applies to, it's the QA people, the manufacturing people, and anybody that's not in development, essentially, but supporting the delivery pipeline. We have to be sensitive to that. We, at Spirent, have a solution that we deliver, which is not only tools, but also the expertise, best practices, and professional services that can help an organization get through those different phases. And indeed, part of it is being sensitive to the culture and helping these organizations move their practices and the culture together with the tooling and the automation and the higher speeds.
So you don't just bring a toolbox past the customer and drop it off in the door and say, good luck. I mean, there has to be a lot of engagement. It seems like, but engagement customer by customer. And how do you I would think at the end of the day that the outcomes, both for the company and for the individual, will be important if you can somehow positively incentivize them. This is good for you, this is good for your job and career, and it's good for your company. But how do you do that when you thought you were in the software business?
Yeah, I thought you weren't going to ask any difficult questions.
I think that's probably an easy.
Well prepared.
That's an easy one for you. I think that's what you do for a living, right?
Yeah, basically. But you're absolutely right. The days of just selling tools is long gone. Along with I would call it the softwareization, if that's a word, of everything, is changing the way products and solutions are handled. Companies have to be more well-rounded, not only deliver a tool, but expertise and services to go with it. Otherwise, they're really not going to survive in this world of DevOps. So yes, we indeed do help an organization through those hurdles. We have something called a best practices assessment tool, which is a very well-rounded approach. For actually multiple things, but for the DevOps Best Practices Assessment Tool, we assess an organization on 7 dimensions: team, process, continuous integration practices, continuous testing practices, continuous monitoring practices, delivery practices, and also what we consider to be outside the scope of DevOps, but ahead of DevOps, the pre-flight environment. All of those practice areas have to be looked at together to make an entire functioning system. So the team practices have a lot to do with culture, and so we help an organization assess where they are along a scale, kind of a maturity model scale, and feed it back to them and help them decide, okay, what do we really want to do? Going from where they are to where they want to get to may not happen in one jump. It may in fact require organization changes as well as tool changes and integrating and automating their processes.
Makes my stomach hurt a little bit. I can just imagine the tension in some of these places. But there's organizational goals. I mean, it seems to me that now we're in the cloud and we're rapidly deploying and there's flexibility and scalability up and down, and it's so distributed that it's not so much that the economy is for, in the old days, you talk about competitive advantage and that's why you do things. But it seems to me like the technology itself behooves companies to adapt to the advantages that it offers.
Yeah.
Something like that. Is that what you're finding? And how do you get this through people's heads that this is really what you want to do?
Well, it's all about results. I would say even a few years ago, the jury was still kind of out on this DevOps thing. It was a relatively new word, and there were plenty of examples, but there weren't enough examples of proven success. But at this point, there are a lot of examples of proven success. When you implement DevOps according to best practices, you do get kind of a silver bullet in terms of the delivery process. You get better quality, you get better time to market, faster cycle times, you get more control on your expenses, more visibility on the processes. It's almost like a silver bullet, but it doesn't happen for free. It does require a significant investment, not only in time, but even money, automation, culture, organization changes. An organization that's starting from nothing, a totally non-DevOps situation, to trying to accomplish a DevOps situation should expect they're going to go through multiple phases of evolution on all of those dimensions of people, process, and technology.
So, there's that prove it aspect, and it sounds like now you can address it. Things might be a little easier today than, say, 2 or 3 years ago. So now the easy part, just why should companies contact Spirent? How can they find you? What's your URL? How do they find you? And why should they bother contacting you? What are you really going to offer them that they should be doing business with you and with the company?
Well, we have a talk at DevOps Summit here, and I'll be explaining some of the takeaways. Our best practices assessment tool, I think, is a good way for a company to assess where they are. We have a lot of customers and experiences with DevOps. There's no such thing as a standard best practices, but we have that experience burned into this tool, and it can help people calibrate where they are, at least relative to what Spirent's experiences are. We also have very unique capabilities in terms of our solution, which is not only, as I say, tools, but professional services and expertise. As far as testing is concerned, which, as I say, a lot of folks struggle trying to get the testing part of DevOps right. They sort of know how to make their own builds and their integration. They certainly know how to deliver their products, or they wouldn't be in business. But when it comes to automated testing, they're struggling. And this is where we can really help them. Our tools are very unique. We have the ability to not only stand up a test environment, but to orchestrate the entire test environment in a very automated fashion, the entire test topology. And it's a very unique tool set as well in that it integrates automated testing together with test orchestration. There are companies that have some test orchestration capability, but not integrated together and addressing testing at the system level. Again, there are plenty of companies that help with code level testing, but these tools go way beyond that. They help you with your entire test cycle from development testing, integration, regression, system performance, application level testing, even delivery testing, because of the way they're done. So Spirent actually has a very unique capability, and we're trying to get the word out through events like this, and we think we have something to offer.
I've been sitting here with Mark Hornbeek having a pretty serious conversation about testing and DevOps. It's a serious issue. This is the real heart of what's going on today, so I appreciate your time. Spirent Communications is the company. Look them up. Contact Mark. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckhoff.